to Brava. uh, Welcome to Brava Wise Women Wednesday. Today we've got a wonderful Stephanie Rothra doing a presentation for us. I'm very excited to just let you know a little bit about Stephanie. Stephanie is a hypnotherapist and a naturopath and practices on the Sunshine Coast and online. In addition to Bachelor of Health Science for Naturopathy and Diploma of Hypnotherapy, she qualified as a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, breathe coach, mind-body medicine practitioner. Stephanie is fascinated by the impact that our minds have on our health and well-being, and has combined her knowledge of mind, body, and spirit to create better and healthier lives for her clients in the last 14 years. Stephanie lives with her partner, David, their dog, Felix, and she loves reading, being in nature, and good food. Over to you, Stephanie.
Hello and welcome to today's presentation. And it's a little bit informal today. It's about rituals. And the reason I want to talk about rituals, which is really just a more fancy word for habits, is that if you have them in your daily life, they make life much easier and can help you to set you up for the day, for the week, and the year. And what we know is that as a human being, we have to make thousands of decisions every day. And it's tiring. And the more decisions we have to make, the harder it gets. And the harder it is to exert our willpower. So if we can kind of automate some decisions by creating habits, it just frees up a little bit of our brain capacity and makes life so much easier. Because if you don't have to think about it, or what am I going to do first thing in the morning, or what do I generally do around lunchtime, but you have a routine that has set you up, then it just allows you to flow much more easily within the day, and you're able to make more decisions throughout the day. So one reason to start with daily rituals in the morning is basically to set you up for the day, to ground you for the day. And I don't know, I can't remember who was the author, but there was a book written by a previous army officer or general. One of the things he suggested, for example, is to make your bed in the morning as a ritual. And I really like that. It's a very easy kind of activity. But what it does is, if you make your bed in the morning, it kind of sends a clear slate, and it kind of creates a sense of order, and you have your first achievement for the day. And if you think about rituals or habits in your life, how many of you still have to think about if they brush their teeth in the morning? I don't think anybody, right? Everybody knows teeth brushing is part of your routine. So you do not need to think about, when do I brush my teeth? How do I brush my teeth? You have implemented it as a day-to-day activity. So if you do other things like that after you get up in the morning, and you implement something like have a couple of glasses of water, or just one glass of water in the morning. If you do that first thing when you wake up, and you do that every day, what will happen is, over time, it becomes a habit. You don't have to think about it, and you already started your day on a good level of hydration. And that is the other point of those rituals. They are kind of touch points for self-care. They allow you to tune in with yourself. Now, depending on who you are and how inclined you are, some people like to meditate in the morning. And it doesn't need to be for a long time. Just giving yourself 5 minutes after you got up, maybe after you had your glass of water, just to sit down in a quiet space by yourself. And you can either use the time to do some breathing exercises, just breathing in and breathing out for the same length, and you can count that. Or you use that time to write down some gratitude, 3 things that you're grateful for in your life. That will set you up for the day. If you do a breathing exercise, it calms you down, it focuses your mind. If you do a gratitude exercise, that already sets the tone for the rest of the day. Another good habit in the morning is if you set an intention for the day. how do you want your day to be? So it works a little bit like a filter that you put in front of your brain. If you wake up in the morning and, it's one of those bad days where you feel you put the wrong foot out of the bed and the first thing you think is, oh God, this is going to be a bad day. Chances are it's going to be a bad day. But if you're used to a ritual where you sit down and where you start to do gratitude or breathing and then set a conscious intention, you can say, I make it the best day that I can, or I'm going to meet a lot of interesting people today, or I'm going to have a new client today, or whatever happens, your intention is. It focuses your mind to see those opportunities opening up. And there is literally kind of a scientific explanation for it. It's called the reticular activating system. And when you set an intention there, it actually focuses your mind on spotting that someone might be interested in talking to you. There are opportunities that you otherwise might not have seen if you were in your, oh, this is going to be a bad day funk. So this is the important thing about that ritual. Now, that is the beginning of the day. It's equally important to have kind of a good routine at the end of the day, because if you are having the same procedures every night, it does help your mind to set you up for a better night's sleep. It's almost like you send signals to your brain. And for example, when I decide I go to bed, for me, it's I'll kind of take my last little supplements and then I take my face off and then I brush my teeth and then I read a little bit and I switch the light off and generally I turn over to my right side. By the time I start brushing my teeth, I already start to get really tired. And when I start reading, I kind of get more tired and actually quite often have to stop after I read 1 or 2 pages. And so my body now kind of has that trigger point starting sort of with that routine at night. It sets me up to be tired and it works really well for me, except for the days when I had too much caffeine or I'm a bit too stressed out. But in a normal day, that generally triggers that kind of nighttime routine. And that leads me actually to some kind of boundaries that you need to have in your life as well. And boundaries are kind of a ritual. It's kind of, switching your phone to silent at a certain time at night. It's kind of making a conscious choice. For example, if you go to bed at 10 p.m. or 9 p.m., I would recommend 2 hours before that. That's it, no more communication. You just have the phone on silent and on do not disturb. You do not engage on social media. You just take those 2 hours before bedtime to actually calm down and to just slow down your mind. It's also knowing what time you do need. Some people need 2 hours. Some other people might only need an hour before bedtime. It's worthwhile to play around for yourself and see what is the ideal time that you want to have that kind of, a client of mine calls it initiate shutdown procedure. And sometimes it helps when you're not used to it to set yourself an alarm that says at 10 p.m. or at 8 p.m. now it's time to basically slow everything down and get yourself into that right mood to go to bed. And if you work by yourself and you work in a home office, it's also important to have a good delineation between what are work hours and what are your private hours. Because otherwise you will end up working until 8, 9 p.m. And I do from myself while I was studying in the past and didn't think about habits and rituals. I would study until 9, 10 p.m. at night, and then I would be surprised that I couldn't go to sleep. And it's this kind of, you don't have a separation, what is your personal life and what is your work life. So find a ritual that you can use to say, this is the end of my day. Maybe that could be something like just closing the door to the office. For some people, it might be maybe they just need to go outside the house if they work from home and go for a walk around the block to just give that kind of physical activity at the end of the day and say, this is the end of my work day. And understandably, it depends on what type of business you have. Occasionally, you still need to dip back into your business, but it is good to bookend the day and the work day. Otherwise, you have that kind of flowing in and evaporating your boundaries that you need to keep. And the other thing is learn to say no to other people, because it's easier to say yes, especially as women. We tend to have a tendency to always say yes and to agree and trying to be helpful. But think about it, take a step back, and when someone asks you to do something, instead of jumping into yes, take a step back and say, thank you very much for asking me. Let me think about it. And take a moment or a day to actually think about, is this really in line with what I want to achieve? Or is it better for me to say no? Because no one is helped when you put so much effort in for everybody else and then you tire and fatigue yourself out. And that's basically the power of rituals. Implement them. And you can do that in the middle of the day as well. Have a small break during your lunch. Just go for a small walk or take a few minutes to take a breather, or the stretches that we saw last week that Carolyn showed us. Do some stretches during your lunch break. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Carolyn. We'll put the details in of how to contact you in the comments and captions in the video.